Friends, you can see valgus deformity. I'm operating on the left side. We are doing Velys robotic system. In this video, I am showing how we calculate the values on the system on the monitor so that to get the hip knee ankle axis to the most desired values, and the balancing of the knee is very clearly described in this video. Now we are mounting the trackers on the femur and the tibia. These trackers will take information as the joint moves, and this is being recorded in the camera by the camera of the robo. This is a robotic arm which is independently moving in the space so as to be in a position where when we are starting to do the resection, it is in the proper position with respect to the position of the knee. When this circle is overlapping those two circles, that means our tracker, our arrays, and camera are all in the same sync, and all the data of the knee is being recorded in the system. Now we are seeing that the tibial and femoral arrays are facing the camera and knee is in proper position. Now we are starting to do the hip center calculation, and then we are seeing the graph. In this graph, you can see medial side is very lax, as in the any valgus knees. It is showing 11 degrees of valgus, medially 14 mm in flexion and 14 mm in extension. However, laterally in the concave side, 5.5 mm in extension and 4 mm in flexion. Now we have to make all these four values equal in the graph. That means our knee is balanced. Here we are keeping we are intending not to cut much of the lateral side in the tibial side, and we are keeping hip knee axis at 2 degrees of valgus in the tibia. With that 2 degrees of valgus, you can see we are able to do only 6 mm of medial resection in the tibia and 0 on the lateral side. So we made it 7 and 1. So this is showing so much values in the extension. This is a tibial first resection technique. Then we will be using sensor tensor to assess the joint laxity. Once we do the tibial first resection, then we put the sensor tensor and then take the values and then adjust the femoral resection in the system. You can see we are keeping 2 degrees valgus, 7 mm medial and 1 mm lateral. After this, we are coming to this panel, very important if you concentrate here. First, we are adjusting the extension gap, that is by the distal femur resection. Rotation of the femur and the flexion of the femoral component is only showing the flexion gap. You can see we have kept extension gap as 7 mm medial, 7 mm lateral, that is with the 0 degrees of varus valgus in the femur. It is showing 7 mm medial, 6 mm lateral gap in extension. You can see here in flexion of the knee, medial is very large opening is there. As we are seeing the rotation of femoral component, when we are giving 3 or 4 degrees of external rotation, medially it is opening to 13 mm. That means in valgus knees, not always we have to give external rotation of the femur. Sometimes you have to give internal rotation. But in order not so much in order to patellofemoral tracking is compromised. So we are giving 1 degrees of external rotation only, and this is showing 11 mm of medial flexion gap. And when you see here the sagittal plane femoral component, as we put 4.5 degree, it is showing 10 mm medial side. As we go on reducing the sagittal plane femoral flexion component of the femoral femur, flexion space is increasing both medially and laterally. That means we have to keep femur in flexion, that is corresponding to anatomic axis of the femur. This is very important function of the robotic system anywhere, because this we cannot do with the conventional. When we keep 3.5 degrees, you can see 10.5 mm of medial, 9 mm of lateral, we are adjusting. And we have adjusted extension gap by 7.5 mm resection, both medial and lateral, 7 or 7.5 mm on 0 degrees of hip knee ankle axis. Let us see how it takes the resection. With this 7.7 mm of resection of varus valgus, we have completed the resection. You can see now we are using the trial implantation. This is the graph. You can see in flexion, it is showing my 0.5 mm of medial opening, 1 mm lateral opening, 0.5 extension, medial opening, 1 mm lateral opening. Graph is almost straight. 0 degrees of valgus and 5 degrees of flexion, 5 or 6 degrees, that is clinically 0. That means we have balanced this knee to accurate values medially and laterally without doing much of the releases. This is how we have to do whenever we are doing the robotic value adjustment in this Velys system. And in this system, we are doing this after the tibial first technique by the sensor tensor. If you have liked it, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more of robotic hip and knee surgeries and arthroscopy of knee and shoulder surgeries and informative and interesting concepts in orthopedics. Thank you very much.